Well, Razorback fans, it's a What If Wednesday, and this time around, we're going to ask the question, what if Bobby Petrino and his offense lives up to the hype? Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your very first purchase. Terms apply. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday. It's the halfway point of the week, and we're getting you all squared away, and appreciate everybody listening. And be sure to hit that subscribe button, whether it's on YouTube or on the audio side of the podcast. Always appreciate the support from each and every person out there. But it's slower times whenever you're looking at getting into talking football or basketball or baseball, whatever it may be. And for this particular case, looking at football, because we got to go to SEC Media Days last week. And, of course, the topic of conversation is always going to be with Arkansas about Bobby Petrino. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I think Sam Pittman has handled it pretty well. It's got to be something that's tough where people are angry at you or were angry at you and didn't want you to be the coach anymore. And then now you go into a situation to where you stay on as the coach, but now everybody's expecting you to deliver results, even though if the team succeeds this year, especially offensively, Petrino's going to get all the credit, and if the team fails, Pittman's going to get the blame. It's unfortunate. It really is, and it shouldn't be that way, but unfortunately it is that way. But either way, there was some things that came out of SEC Media Days that I thought was really fascinating, and a lot of it came from Andrew Armstrong, the wide receiver. Now, Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South wrote this article, and he kind of put all the quotes together, and I thought it was really, really cool. So, Andrew Armstrong, we know, wide receiver that played for Arkansas last year, is one of the few bright spots on the wide receiver crew. And, he's termed to make have a breakout season. He's really excited about it. But one of the things was that when he was asked about the offensive coordinator position being open, he said that he was a little surprised with the person rumored to be linked to the job. He said, quote, "I said, Bobby Petrino? I go, look at the stats, and I said, bring him. Bring him in. I don't care. Bring him in." Man, that was when I first found out. I was like, I am ready. So you already knew that he was excited about the aspect of having a Bobby Petrino offense and what he's able to do in the passing game, and is also what is he able to do with the wide receivers and the excitement surrounding that as well. So there's already a built-in excitement for that. But then you go on and read the rest of it, and it had some interesting stuff from not only Taylon Green and from Andrew Armstrong, but also even from Sam Pittman. Because Andrew Armstrong went on to say, whenever he comes in, who he's the guy. He says when he first walked into the room and we first met him, he said, "Sit up, make sure you pay attention, lock in." Every time he walks into the room, if people are going to see him or if people are talking and we see him, nobody is talking. We're ready to pay attention. We all want to learn from Coach Petrino because of the history of the offense at Arkansas when he was here and when Missouri State played Arkansas here. We're just ready. So obviously a lot of respect goes into it from Andrew Armstrong, not only when the possibility and the aspect of him becoming the next offensive coordinator was happening just in the offseason as soon as the season ended last year, but also in the fact that once he's actually gotten in there and he's taken it over and really approached it in his own way, it's got a lot more people excited about it too. Now, Sam Pittman was also asked about the aspect of having Bobby Petrino, and it's nothing like really groundbreaking as far as the comments that he made, but still some pretty fascinating quotes here. As when he was talking about having a head coach, and when he had Barry Odom, treating him like a head coach and everything. I'll just read the quote. He says, quote, "I had Barry Odom before I could bump some head coaching questions off of. As I get older, the questions aren't as many, or as I get more years of being a head coach. But it's like a security blanket. I got Bobby here, there. I got Barry there that I can run off things. Both of those guys are not, hey, we need to do this, this, this. I'll ask them a question, and I want their opinion, and they know it. We'll agree on it, or we won't. But we're both grown men. If we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. We move on down the road." So that was always the first thing when Petrino was hired is like, how is that relationship going to work? And I'm serious about this. Like, I know that people are critical of Sam Pittman, and I have been too. Like, I was very upset with the way things were handled, at the end of the season and going 4-8 last year. But you got to give a lot of credit to Pittman and him being able to swallow any sort of pride or his ego that he has and make this move, knowing what's going to be happening. Like, he knows he's on the hot seat. He knows that he is this close to being canned. And he's got to really prove himself this year. He's got to prove himself in a major, major, major way. And he made a hire that he knew was going to be exciting, and it was, but it has overshadowed anything that Pittman really is going to have going for him. Again, it goes back to the whole thing. If the offense succeeds, it'll be because of Petrino, but if the offense or the team doesn't do well, it's going to be because of Pittman. Like, that's just the way it is. But again, I think that Pittman, the fact that he's able to swallow that pride that he has and allow that and accept that is huge. I mean, you got to give him credit for that. He could have just easily, mailed it in and not cared. He knew what would happen when he hired Petrino. I don't think there's any way, shape, or form that Sam Pittman knew when he hired Bobby Petrino that it would not be a big deal, that it would not freak anybody out, that it would not get excitement for that particular coach and nothing else. He knew. And he also knew that getting Petrino, you're going to have a great quarterback to go along with it, or at least a quarterback that really fits. And Taylor Green had some also really interesting quotes when talking about Bobby Petrino. He said that when he was, he says that he believes that he's the best offensive coordinator and offensive mind in the country, and he's grateful to have that opportunity. He also went on to say when he talked about getting cussed out by Bobby Petrino, it says it didn't take him long to know when that happened. He said, the first scrimmage, I rolled out, I threw across my body, and it was not smart. Right when I ran to the sidelines, I already knew, and I deserved it, and which he kind of laughed about. He says, the thing he tells me all the time is, yeah, he's going to get on to you, but it's coming out of a place of love, which is so funny to think. He's not going to cuss you just to cuss you out. He expects greatness, and that's what I like. And I think that that's an important part right there from Taylor Green, an important quote there from Taylor Green, because I can tell you all so many things about Bobby Petrino and the stories and all of that has ever transpired and has ever happened. But the amount of former players of Bobby Petrino that I've talked to on the offensive side of the ball, each and every one of them love and respect that man. You ask Jarius Wright, you ask Greg Childs, you ask Joe Adams, you ask Tyler Wilson, you ask guys like Travis Swanson. I mean, even the offensive linemen on there. You ask Chris Gregg. Just the amount of respect and that they have for Bobby Petrino is extremely high. Now, a lot of it you could just say, okay, well, it's because they won, and you're right. Like, that's a lot of it is because they won. But a lot of it, too, is because Bobby Petrino proved to them that as much as he was a jerk, there may come off as a jerk, as much as he was ripping them, as much as he was cussing them out, as much as he was just wanting to strangle them, and you felt like you were just getting the worst butt chewing you've ever gotten in your life, the results came along with it. And it's one of those things that I think you always recognize later in life, or as you get older, that there was a method to the madness. There was a purpose behind it. And that's where I look at Petrino and what he's done and what he's doing right now. It's, again, so crazy to think how full circle it's come. That it's not going to be anything different. He has an expectation. He demands excellence. He demands greatness. And that's in every position and in every part. And if you're not going, and if you can't handle that, you need to get out and go somewhere else. There's certain people that respond really well to that. I mean, we're human beings. We respond differently to everything. Whenever we get motivated to do something, sometimes we respond best with praise. Sometimes we respond best with, just leaving us alone and letting us do our own thing. Other times we have to have people around us to work with. And in other cases, sometimes you just need to get ripped. Just get one that gets after you and puts you in your place and stresses you down a little bit and almost pisses you off in the way that you got to stay motivated and you want to come out and be really strong about it. That's the greatness of Petrino, is that it's not because he's not yelling at you, he's not cussing you out as Taylor Green just for the sake of doing it, like Taylor Green said. He's doing it because of the expectation. And so that's why I think Arkansas's offense is really going to be so much better. Like, Arkansas was 69th in scoring last year. Nice. And 116th in yards per play. Those two things are absolutely going to increase. Absolutely going to increase. So what if Bobby Petrino lives up to the hype? What if the quarterback like Taylor Green and Andrew Armstrong and Coach Pittman, all the things that they said at SEC Media Days, what if those things are actually true? What if those things are actually going to be beneficial? What if they actually work? Well, then everybody's just going to say, all right, it's going to be a fun season. Because I'm telling you, if the Bobby Petrino offense, if they're successful, this team's going to be good. Plain and simple. If this offense is good, the team will be good, and it's going to be a fun year. At least it gives us something to look forward to. I'm trying to give you something to look forward to, but hey, we take it as we can always get it, right? Right. Let's talk some basketball here in just a second here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, I want to remind everybody that here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, we are brought to you by the Gametime app. As we know, buying tickets are always a process that has to happen, whether it's going to a sporting event or whether it's going to a comedy show or a concert. Tickets are important if you want to go to these events. Well, when you're buying tickets, make sure you're buying them the right way with the Gametime app, because they have some of the best deals you'll ever see, like last-minute deals where you'd save up to 60% off of buying last minute for sports, for concerts, comedy, theater, everything. They have flash deals, zone deals, all-in pricing where you can toggle a setting to where there's not a bunch of hidden fees. You actually get the entire price all up front, guaranteed. And what's a really cool feature is you get to see exactly where your seat's going to be. So if you're wondering about what the view's going to look like for wherever your event you're going to go to, it gives you an opportunity to look at the picture and to see exactly where you're going to be sitting. And they also have the lowest price guarantee. If you find somewhere cheaper, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference, also guaranteed. So a lot of guarantees that a Gametime makes, but that's what makes them the best. So take the guesswork out of buying any sort of tickets this summer with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your very first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So, little recruiting news that I've always found pretty fascinating. I'll give you an update on this and then go into kind of my thoughts on in-state recruiting, because I think it's always something that's warranted to happen. But J.J. Andrews, he is from Little Rock Christian, LRC. He's a 5-star player, big-time player. And he just got done with the Peach Jam. And this is according to HawkSports.com, that he was with the Bradley Beal Elite in Nike EYBL Peach Jam, 16 under, and he won the title over the weekend. And apparently his outstanding play led him to receiving a scholarship offer from John Calipari. He's 6'7", 215 pounds. He had 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block, and a steal. And he was also able to receive originally an offer from Eric Musselman, and the staff. So if you want to call it a re-offer, that's pretty much essentially what was done for him. He averaged 19.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1 steal in 7 games during the Peach Jam while shooting 66% from the field, 31% from three-point range, and 76% from the free throw line. He also went on to say, overall, I feel that I not only played great throughout the week, but I also feel I improved myself mentally throughout the week. I feel like the games leading up to the big championship game built character in me and my teammates to overcome the tiredness and mental fatigue and won the whole thing. My approach into the Peach Jam was to do anything I could to create winning plays. So 3 of the 4 major recruiting services rate Andrews as a 4-star, and ESPN has him as a 5-star prospect, which is what we do, right? Whatever he's highest in, that's the one that counts. But he has offers: Alabama, Auburn, Texas Tech, Michigan, Iowa State, Stanford, and a bunch of other ones. But he went on to say, and I love this, he says, Arkansas's communication has been great. I've been in touch with Coach Cal, Coach Coleman, and Coach Brewer. They were all excited about my performance and are excited about building stronger relationships. So, anyways, it's just really good to see, anytime you have players that are really highly regarded, to have the interests that are playing into effect with Arkansas and with Cal. But this is just another great reminder, folks, that Arkansas basketball, the state of Arkansas basketball, is so good. And, we talk about football and how tough it is to recruit in this state consistently because you just don't have that next level talent year in and year out. And it is. I'm not trying to downplay any of the players that come from the state of Arkansas because we've seen some great ones. We've seen some legendary players. But as far as the consistency goes, it's just not really there. But in basketball, it's obviously not producing like 10 5-stars a year. But you got to think about it. Like every year or two, I'd say once every 3 years at least, you have at least one 5-star coming out of this state. You've seen multiple 4-stars, high-level 4-stars coming out of this state. And a lot of them have moved on and, are playing in the NBA. But just think about, a guy like Moses Moody and how good he was and how good he is. Think about Nick Smith and him being in the NBA right now. I didn't get to see a whole lot of him, but just how good he is. Jalen Williams, another guy from the state of Arkansas that's playing in the NBA right now. You could just go on and on from guys. Malik Monk, from the state of Arkansas is really good playing in the NBA. There's just so much talent. There's just so much talent in this state. And it's important to be able to, as cliche as it sounds, to build a fence around it. But you got to be able to keep those kids in state as much as possible. You're not going to get them all. But here's the thing. If Cal can't, this is what's crazy. Muss did a really good job of keeping kids in state. He really did. The only one that really got out of state that would have been really, really nice to have was Coel Ware, which, geez, could you imagine him being on that team? There's already had 3 5-stars. Imagine a 4th one. But that was really the only one that got away. But with Cal now as the head coach of the Razorback basketball team, I just I do not see any of the players of the future in the next few years who are highly regarded, high 4-star, 5-star caliber basketball players coming out of the state who John Calipari visits them or talks to them that they say no. Because Arkansas is already a great program, an elite program, a program that's going to get a lot of interest no matter what because of the prestige. But then you throw in the Cal factor. I mean, what could another player have, and why would a player leave the state? Where could they go to get something better than what Arkansas and Calipari is going to offer them? I don't know of any place. I don't know of any place. So, I guess this week, what is it, Friday? We're going to find out about Darius Acuff. I'm just telling y'all. Be ready. Be ready for some fun. Be ready for good vibes of the weekend. That's all I'm going to say. Just be ready for the good vibes of the weekend. Deal. All right. Let's talk about an interesting stat, though, in Razorback football and the pros coming up next on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. This was an interesting tweet that got put out just a couple of days ago. And I meant to bring it up, but had some other things going on. But Matt Miller, he's NFL draft scout. I mean, he's been everywhere. I've known him for a long time. And he's got 310,000 followers on Twitter. Not that means anything, but just saying that he's a pretty legitimate or as legitimate of an NFL draft scout as it can possibly be. And I thought it was really interesting that he tweeted this out. He says, quote, "You're going to hear a lot about how the 2025 NFL draft class is one of the biggest ever. Maybe the biggest ever." So when I read that first sentence, I'm like, okay, draft class being big is just numbers or whatever. Here's what he goes on. He says, here's a good case in point. Arkansas has 19 players on my scouting watch list. That means 19 players who've been tabbed as NFL caliber by NFL scouts and NFL coaches. If you want to go deeper, Arkansas has 26 players who are draft eligible and have been evaluated by area scouts. And that's just Arkansas. the P5 closest to his home, he always starts there. So I saw that, and I was like, wow, okay. That's crazy to think that they have 19 players on the scouting watch list for the NFL. Well, then Eric Galko, who's also someone who covers NFL drafts and scouting and everything, he responds and he replies there below Matt Miller and saying, Arkansas also has 16 on the Shrine Bowl 1000, and that doesn't include third-year players and a few that just missed the cut. And that's fourth most in the SEC. Okay. I know that there are a lot more things that go into it and winning football games than just simple scouting reports and coming from that. And I know that Matt Miller saying that and Eric Galko saying that, like, doesn't mean, oh, well, for sure this is every single one of those players are going to play in the NFL and get drafted and going to be awesome. Like, it's never going to be to that level, just to be honest. But seeing that it's that high of a number and you have players on this team that the NFL is really, truly looking at, I'm sitting there and I see 19. I'm like, who's the 19 players? The fact that it's that high and there's that many, maybe there could be something out of it, right? Maybe there could be something that we're not seeing. Maybe they could have a really big year. Probably not. But I just thought it was really interesting. I did not realize that Arkansas had that many. And especially comparing it to the rest of the SEC, like Galko says, 16 players on the Shrine Bowl 1000. That does not include third-year players. And if you just missed the cut, that's fourth most in the SEC. So what it looks like to me is Arkansas has a bunch of NFL players, and they're going to be awesome, and they're going to have a great success. That's what it says to me. So we'll just hold on to that. But appreciate everybody listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors. BuzzJohnNabors. Dude, I haven't said that in so long. Oh, man, I broke my streak. John Nabors Show. Don't go to BuzzJohnNabors. You won't find anything. John Nabors Show. But we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.